It was over. The war was finally over, and we didn't die. As the smoke cleared, we were victorious. The soldiers left standing were the ones to cheer in victory. The sky became littered with the howls and cries of the joyful and happy. The tyranny of the demon lord had ended. But what now? Home was now possible. We could go back to the human world, and we could live our lives as we wanted. It was something I desperately wanted, and yet my body was not ready to make the journey just yet. We had to celebrate the success of the war, after all. As the full moon rose over Lilith Castle towards the dawn, the entirety of the demon world celebrated with endless drink and food, laughter, and dancing. It was so unreal, but the courtyard that I could see was filled with smiles and happy faces. We had stayed for one more night, traveling back to Lilith Castle to rest and return home as healthy as we could be. After all, we had just gone through a war. One more night in the demon world wasn't going to hurt us. While the majority of the rebellion danced in the courtyard, I remained with the Incubi and the rebel leaders, who were all in the royal hall having their own celebration. Drinks were shared and battle stories were exchanged, making some laugh and others roll their eyes. I found myself intrigued at the story Sargent told about the front line. As I looked at Diana, however, she simply kept quiet with a small smile on her face. She looked at the Incubi and the rebel leaders in silence before walking away from the little party we had. As if she knew I was staring at her, Diana looked over at me and slightly gestured with her head to follow her. Oops. Sure. Okay. I'm curious. Why not? I followed, curious as to where she was going. I made sure to remain quiet as I separated from the rest of the group and followed her out of the room into the hall. The entire journey, Diana didn't speak a word. Even Sarah didn't follow her, most likely being told that she wanted to speak to me alone. Diana led me through the castle, up a couple sets of stairs, into what looked to be a royal bedroom with a balcony. It's always balconies with me and her. Was this a guest room? It was untouched, and I could smell the very faint scent of dust. Why did she bring me here? Well, what a familiar sight this is! Do you need more power, girl? Diana stepped into the room, using her magic to ignite the candelabras and air out the room by opening the balcony window. Before I could ask, however, Diana finally spoke up.
I have to thank you, dear.
For what?
For aiding us in this war. We've been fighting the Demon Lord for so long. We thought the war would never end. As terrible as the circumstance was, if you hadn't been summoned here, we probably would have still been fighting now.
Diana walked to the balcony and leaned against the railing, staring into the dark night sky. The light from the room illuminated her form as she gazed at the stars. Despite the situation around us, the air seemed calm, with the faint echo of the celebrations whispering through the night. I walked over and stood beside her, leaning against the balcony, and looked at Diana as she smiled and let out a chuckle.
To be very honest, I didn't expect to ever see you again. After I took your energy that night, I vowed to never deal with humans again. No clairvoyance could have told me about you coming into play in this war.
I wasn't exactly counting on coming here. It was good to see you again, though, as weird as that may sound. Diana stared wide-eyed at me, a small form of a blush on her cheeks. What? It was true. I saved her life, too. I was able to see another side of her, one that wasn't cruel or ruthless towards me. I guessed it was the real her, free of her muse, and I was happy to find out that she wasn't a terrible person after all. When you were in the human world, I never imagined you to be a nice person. You did everything you could to mess with me and try to coerce the boys to return. Since I came, I know who you really are. You have a good heart, Diana, and I'm glad to know that now. Also, you should totally kiss Sarah, just saying. For me. Diana stared for a while before smiling softly, her eyes slightly glossing over in a sense of appreciation. She almost looked like a little girl for half of a second, her face so full of innocence.
And you do as well, my friend.
What a turn of events. Diana turned her body to me and held her hand out towards me. I smiled back and took her hand, gently shaking it before pulling her to me, surprising her. Aw, hug it out, guys. I wanted to hug her, so I did. I wrapped my arms around her body and felt her very slowly relax into my embrace. With a small breath and what I assumed to be a purr, Diana wrapped her arms around me and hugged me back. Never would I have imagined embracing Diana and seeing her not as an enemy, but as a friend. It was mind-boggling, but I was glad to know the real Diana now. Diana and I pulled away from each other and smiled before she stepped back to her original spot.
Oh, I had almost forgotten.
I tilted my head at her. What was she talking about? Diana lifted one of her hands towards the sky and waved her hand through the air, making a soft purple mist glow around her fingers. Within seconds, the mist morphed and formed itself into a lavender-colored lily, resting peacefully between Diana's fingers. She brought it down and presented it to me with a kind gaze.
A gift, my dear.
A gift? I slowly took the flower out of Diana's hands and inspected it visually. It was light, but I could feel a soft glow of magic emanating from the stem and petals. The bloom reminded me of a human world lily, but something about it seemed otherworldly.
A flower known only to demons of Lilith. We call it the Flower of Lilith, because these flowers were said to have been created when Lilith first appeared in the Abyssal Plains.
I stared at Diana, not understanding why she was giving me such a gift. She chuckled at my confusion and leaned against the railing, continuing her explanation.
It is also a flower we succubi use when we marry.
Oh, that's sweet. It's like, I give you my blessing to marry that boy. Use? What do you mean? Diana chuckled again before she gently took the flower from my hands and tucked it behind my ear. As it settled against my ear, I felt mist circle my head and form into a flower crown of lavender lilies. The way Diana looked at me made me feel like I was in my bridal wear already.
A human you may be, but Lilith would have been proud to see you marrying one of her own. These flowers represent her blessing, and may only crown the worthy.
That is so sweet. I felt a blush run across my cheeks. This was a blessing? I slowly reached up and ran my fingers along the flower crown adorning my head, feeling the soft petals against my fingertips. They were almost pulsing with energy. I felt both flattered and honored that a simple flower felt that I was worthy enough to crown my head. Diana let out a sigh and looked back to the sky, making me do the same. One would have expected the sky to be full of smoke or smell of a war's aftermath, but the sky was clear and fresh air drifted through my nose as I inhaled. It was indeed another world, and tonight was my last night in it.
Well, you did it! Congratulations! You've made it to the end of your story. I have to say, I am very surprised at how it turned out.
Way to ruin the moment, Kay.
Nevertheless, I'm glad things worked out in the end, whether it was for the better or otherwise.
What does that mean?
I mean, not only did James defeat his father, the dreaded demon lord, but both of you took out a band of angels! Seriously! That's wild! But I guess it was for the best, or else they would have kept trying to hunt you down and make James the king of the demon world. Angels. So persistent.
Way to self-burn yourself.
Anyways, you've been through a lot, so why don't we skip to... Huh? You want to know what happened after the war? Well, I mean, I guess I could tell you.
I mean, that would be nice. Like what happened with James and things.
After the war was finished, the entire rebellion celebrated. Word spread far and wide about the rebellion's success, and soon every kingdom in the Abyssal Plains had become united with the new authority. You would think demons would be more hostile towards each other, being demons and all, but the threat of the demon lord was what brought the entire world together. The entire world united under one banner, the Lilith Crest. Diana became the sovereign of the entire plane, accepted and loved by practically everyone because of her devotion to the world and her bravery in the war.
Long live the queen!
Sero, as devoted as ever, remained by her side as her loyal bodyguard.
But did they ever have a kid? I need to know the real answers.
Diana became one of the most beloved rulers in all of Demon World history. Her natural heart of gold led her to lead the world to a prosperous future, one filled with peace and happiness. The other rebel leaders supported her, eventually changing the caste system of the world and slowly working their way towards a plane as equal and peaceful as it could be.
Well, good for them.
Diana had her suspicions, of course, as any monarch would, but if they had any sort of bad thoughts about her before, they certainly didn't during the recreation of the world. And I believe that is everything that happened after, well, except for your story anyway.
Mm-hmm.
James and you returned home and prepared once again for your marriage. Everything was taken care of before he found you, so no one knew the wiser. Huh? How do I know? Well, I have my ways. Maybe you should check it out.
I will. Is that the end? Ah. The wedding was perfect. The reception, even more so. Everything that happened to me before the wedding was completely washed away by the nerves that rushed through me, and the joy I felt when I finally said, I do. As the wedding bells chimed and the cheers rang through the air as James and I finally kissed, I could almost see my future laid out before me, and it was gorgeous. I could go on and on about the wedding and the honeymoon, but honestly, after the war, I was more concerned of living my life afterwards. Our lives escalated to new heights after we officially became husband and wife. James helped the Anderson Toy Company skyrocket through the business world, now an official Anderson heir. I stood beside him, aiding him in every way possible. As for me, I began to go through my own success in life, dedicating myself to becoming exactly what I wanted to be. After all, my husband was a CEO. Nothing was barred from me. If I put the same amount of work in as I did in the demon world, then I was going to be okay. However, there was never a day that went by that I didn't think about what was happening in the Abyssal Plains. It was a heavy chapter of my life, one that tested the love between me and James. The memory of the angels that chased after us would always run shivers down my spine, reminding me that, at any moment, an angel could lash out at us once more. Still, I was confident that we would get through it and stay together no matter what came our way. Demon, devil, angel. It didn't matter to us. We were unstoppable together. The faint memory of my own power slightly tingled through me every time I grew confident, eagerly reminding me that I had strength of my own. I would never let anyone come between me and James ever again. The slow settling of it all rumbled in my mind as I laid in bed, holding James close to me. I was so happy to see him every morning, even more so now to occasionally glimpse his wedding ring resting on his ring finger. Oh, hello, Sleepy. That's cute. Also, you don't have a ring on your wedding finger. I'm disappointed in you. Or no, wait. Yes, that's the right hand. Oh, James, I'm disappointed in you. I had to look at my own hands and go, left? Yes, that's correct. I couldn't help myself from brushing my fingers over his gorgeous black locks, staring at his closed eyes. How did I ever deserve you? It seemed so unreal holding him close to me. How lucky was I to have a man who not only was strong, but also intelligent and charming all in one package. The demon part of him almost became an extra dab of cream on the top. Whenever I looked at him, my heart would overflow in joy. This was indeed true love, and I was the luckiest person in the universe. I softly leaned in and kissed his forehead, needing to show my love even as he slept. He protected me with his arms around me, and I would show him my gratitude for as long as we were together. My kiss, however, slowly made James begin to stir in my arms. I gasped a bit before giggling, seeing his eyes slowly flutter open. The sight of his tired, whiskey-colored eyes made my heart do giddy flips, knowing that they would always look at me out of love. Good morning.
Good morning.
James nuzzled into the pillow beneath his head, taking a moment to wake up at last before smiling up at me. I smiled back, sliding my body closer to James and nuzzling his chest. How did you sleep?
I slept well, but waking up to your smile is so much better.
A red blush rushed across my face before I buried my face in James's shoulder, making him laugh and hug me against his chest. The content hum that rumbled in his chest made me smile despite the embarrassment on my cheeks. I was going to experience this every morning, waking in his arms and feeling complete within them. James gently kissed over my head before squeezing around my waist, making me look up at him and become lost in his loving gaze.
What about you?
I let a cheesy grin paint across my face before pecking his chin with my lips lightly, making him stare wide-eyed at me in surprised amusement. Sleep was good, but I'd rather be awake with you. James chuckled and kissed my forehead, hugging me tightly to him.
Well then, what shall we do today?
Huh? Don't you have work? James shook his head and caressed my cheek lovingly. I unconsciously nuzzled his palm, loving the warmth radiating from it as I stared at James patiently listening.
I managed to grab a couple days off.
How many days?
How does a whole week sound?
I grinned and squeezed him slightly in a hug of my own, making him laugh a bit and kiss my nose sweetly. You're all mine for a week?
For a whole week. Though I'm all yours regardless of that.
To hear him claim that made my heart skip a beat. No one else to lay claim to him but me, and I was thrilled at that. I rested my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat as he cradled my head to him and rested his cheek against my hair.
So, any ideas? We could go into Chicago and watch a couple of shows, or we could even fly out somewhere if you want.
We can do anything?
Anything you want.
I thought for a moment, trying to decide what to do. There were so many things available to us, but as I felt myself melt into James's embrace, I closed my eyes and rubbed my head against his chest. How about we lay here for a bit and decide later? With a nod and a laugh, James gave me a loving squeeze and shifted to make himself comfy, allowing me to use his chest as my pillow. While the idea of adventure was enticing, we could save it for when we were ready to really get out of bed.
As my beautiful wife wishes.
I love you, James. James lifted my chin slightly and stared deep into my eyes with an adoring gaze and smile, making every part of me practically swoon at the sight.
I love you too. More than anyone in the world. I will always be here beside you every morning and every night for as long as we live.
I believed every word. I let his words embed themselves into my heart, and I would remember them forever. As James finally kissed me, locking lips with mine, he sealed his words. His destiny was to be with me, and I to be with him. No angel could change that, no demon could break that. And that was my perfect happily ever after. And my destiny is with you, T. Well, how sweet was that? My goodness, we barely spent any time with James at all, though, it felt like. But there were some epic battles and exciting things that happened, that's for sure. Although you could argue we spent more time with Diana than James. Seduce Me to the Demon War. Oh, we got singing. Okay, I'm gonna listen to it. Don't ask, okay? The end. Good question mark. Ah, that's sneaky. I really like that song. It's pretty. Achievement. My destiny is with you. Hooray! We got the good ending. We didn't die horribly. There are some interesting names in that cast list. For instance, I saw Suzu and Naomi listed in there, as well as Malix. Excuse? I mean, Malix who got torn to shreds? Malix? We're gonna get a flashback with him at some point? Well, that's color me intrigued, I guess, is what I have to say about that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching me get through James's good ending. According to my notes, James has 3 bad endings, so I'm gonna see if I can get them. If you guys know of more, you can let me know, but as far as I'm aware, there's 3. So next time, I guess we'll try and get the first of those and see how horribly that plays out for us, and probably be copious amounts of tears and tissues that will be involved. So hopefully I'll see you there for that, guys. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, I shall see you later.